Well, good morning, everyone. This is early in the morning on the first day of level 2, and I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to having a haircut. I hope you're keeping well. I hope you're keeping safe. As we move into this new stage of our fight as a nation against COVID-19 and as we seek to protect the most vulnerable in our society, I wanted to talk to you just about two things in relation to the guidance that has been issued. So you should have either received directly or you can access on our diocesan website, that's www.wtanglican.nz, these detailed guidelines to assist you in your local planning. Now, yesterday the government announced some changes to the regulations around funerals. That in part is due to the lobbying, the putting forward of arguments from a number of groups, including a letter from myself, Archbishop Don Tamahiri, and Cardinal John Dew of the Roman Catholic Church. And we were able to meet yesterday with the Prime Minister and with several members of Cabinet to discuss the points that we'd made in that letter, and I'd like to come back to that in a moment or two. But as a result of the change, which allows for funerals and tangihana of up to 50 people to be provided for, I want to offer the following change to our guidelines. What I'm now saying in relation to funerals and funerals only is that in exceptional circumstances and after discussion with your archdeacon, diocesan churches may be used for funerals of up to 50 people held strictly according to diocesan and government guidelines. The singing of hymns is still not permitted because of the increased risk of transmission. Churches are closed for all other services of worship, as all other public gatherings are still restricted to 10 people. So the exceptional circumstances that I'm imagining are the kind of situation where someone who has perhaps been a regular worshipper in that church for many, many years, and some maybe for the whole of their lives, and their families want to farewell them from that beloved space. Please contact your archdeacon and talk through the details of how that could be managed. The issue over hymn singing is currently being investigated by the Ministry of Health. But the New Zealand Choral Federation has taken advice, and the basic advice at the moment is that it is best not to include the singing of hymns in services because there is an increased risk of transmission. Simply that the water molecules that flow from our mouths when we speak or when we sing or when we shout go much further when we are singing, perhaps up to 4.9 metres. So that's a big distance. It significantly increases the risk and inhibits social distancing. Now, as I said, Cardinal John Dew, Archbishop Don Tamahiri and I wrote a very detailed 2.5-page letter to the Prime Minister and members of Cabinet, setting out our concerns around some of the provisions of Level 2. We make the point that we would not of itself be concerned about an extension of the restrictions of public gatherings to 10 people if that was consistently applied. We asked to be helped to understand how markets and malls and pubs could be safer environments than services of worship and prayer where strict guidelines are applied and careful management is put in place. You'll be aware that our guidelines don't allow for coffee and tea and social interaction after services for the very reason that they are much, much more difficult to control. We made the point that our people have been extremely disciplined, but that prayer and worship nourishes who we are and it nourishes the work that we do. We acknowledged with gratitude the enormous contribution that our people have made through our social services, our city missions, in all sorts of capacities that have helped throughout this fight against COVID-19. We also made points around funerals and tangihanga. It was clear from our meeting with the Prime Minister and members of Cabinet that they took that on board. They understood that, and along with the Funeral Directors Association and other groups, we have seen a change in guidelines as we move into level 2. So just to return to the main point of this, the updated guidelines now say that in exceptional circumstances and after discussion with your Archdeacon, diocesan churches may be used for funerals of up to 50 people, held strictly according to diocesan and government guidelines. The singing of hymns at the funeral service is not permitted due to the increased risk of transmission. Churches are closed for all other worship services, as all other public gatherings are still limited to 10 people. Thank you for everything that you're doing. I know there's a lot of work involved in reopening our churches and our church offices and our other spaces. Much of what is contained in the guidelines for level 2 can still be actioned and can still be implemented, but public worship services are not permitted and our churches remain closed except for this exception that I've just detailed. God bless you and keep you, and thank you again for everything that you're doing.